The Greg Kelly Show.
Wow, so many weird things going on. Joe Biden's brother Frank said his brother is near death. And then somebody who knows Joe Biden called the news to say, don't listen to Frank. He's an alcoholic. And he's just drunk dialing you. I just, wow. We better see Joe Biden soon. Oh, and forget it. I mean, this guy has to resign immediately, right? You can't just hang around and be the president of the United States. It's not an easy job. It's not a light duty job. You got to be on. You got to be, if you can't handle a campaign, you can't handle the presidency, obviously. But the obvious doesn't really matter anymore. What's right and just, we have the Democrat Party is basically like the Communist Party. It is like the Communist Party in Russia, the Soviet Union in 1980, where it was all about cover and concealment, distortion, lies, and a couple of shady people behind closed doors known as the Politburo. They got together and they, they kind of worked out their grievances and their gossip and who they liked and didn't like. And we called it Kremlinology. You know, you couldn't really nobody could really watch what was happening over there and know what was going on because it was all fake. They didn't have elections. It all happened behind closed doors. Actually, it happened behind walls inside a place called the Kremlin, which was like their Capitol Hill, but it was like a fort. So they had this whole science. It was called Kremlinology. And you try to figure out who's out, who's up, who's down, and that's what it is like now. You know, Kamala Harris has not received one vote for president. Not one. She's like, and she's terrible at it. But guess who likes her? And guess who's hot for her? And has been for a long time, Barack Obama. To the extent that he likes the ladies, he likes Kamala. He said it in public. He said it, and he had to apologize for it. Y'all got a really good-looking attorney general. It's back in 2013 when he went out there to California to, raise money. What a disgusting, weird time we're in, huh? There's his, hey, JD Vance has just taken the stage in Ohio. Good for him. He's the new vice presidential nominee. He looks great. And great story, great ability. He's got a brain, and he's got accomplishments, and I like that. James Flipppin, Kamala Harris doesn't have much of a brain, and there's a lot of speculation as to who she's going to pick. I don't think this is a done deal yet by any stretch. There's all kind of subterfuge that can still happen. That is probably happening right now. I hear there's rallying around Kamala. I don't know about that.
Well, at least one of the party elites just recently threw her endorsement behind Kamala. You see now Nancy Pelosi has come out and backed her candidacy.
Speaking of alcoholics. Look, I'm an alcoholic too. I stopped drinking, and not to make fun of it, but she does seem loopy half the time, right?
Except while making her stock picks.
Yeah, right. They've done very, very well. How was you were in Milwaukee?
Yeah,
I opted not to go. I had obligations nearby. So how was it?
It was really intense and very, very eye-opening in terms of, like, most of the time, if I ever cover anything of a political nature here in New York, it's not with people wearing a lot of MAGA hats. You know what I mean? It's not a lot of people waving American flags around. There was a patriotic feeling kind of like skyrocketing through the whole thing. And obviously, coming so close to the assassination of former President Trump, the whole thing was just kind of hanging over the entire event. But it wasn't a negative thing. Yeah. It was almost like, you know what? We're emboldened here. We want to move on. We want to continue to move forward. And it was you could feel that energy the entire time.
And Trump is not thrown. The campaign is not scrambling because there's that Joe Biden's not the nominee. I heard Donald Trump say a year and a half ago that, I don't know if it's going to be Joe. I don't know if he's going to make it. He actually, polled the audience to find out if they would make it or not, if Biden would make it. And they've been expecting a switch. I predicted it a year and a half, 2 years ago. Hey, here's Kamala Harris. I think this is the first time she's speaking since they're trying to make her the nominee and Joe Biden's out. Go ahead with this. This is at the White House not too long ago.
And I wanted to say a few words about our president. Joe Biden's legacy of accomplishment over the past 3 years is unmatched in modern history. In one term, he has already, yes, you may clap. In one term, he has already surpassed the legacy of most presidents who have served 2 terms in office. And I first came to know President Biden through his son, Beau. We worked together as attorneys general in our states. And back then, Beau would often tell me stories about his dad. He would talk about the kind of father and the kind of man.
Oh, man, we just got through 4 years of this crap.
The qualities that Beau revered in his father are the same qualities that I have seen every day in our president.
All right, stop. It's just this communist propaganda. It's propaganda. And oh, by the way, everybody knows that Joe hates Kamala and Kamala hates Joe, and that Joe hates Kamala and Obama big time, really despises Obama. I mean, and when you think about it, this is kind of wild, right? Joe Biden gets to the Senate in 1973. Obama shows up in 2005. Two years later, he's the president of the United States. Biden's at his, it's kind of crazy in a way. But listen to this, James Flipppin. We have, this is the way Kamala should be treated, okay? This is, what the hell's her name again? That woman from Hawaii? Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
This is back when she was running for president. This is 2019. And she's running for president. Kamala's running for president against Joe Biden. And listen to her just lay into Kamala. And Kamala has nothing to say. She's so, oh, man, she's nervous. She's moving her papers all over the place. What? Go ahead.
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. That would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris.
All right. Good for her. And she lost that debate. She lost the campaign, 0%. She had to get out. And also, James, she is a nutbag who, yells and screams at people.
Yeah, I mean, look, I tend to agree with you on everything you're saying here, but don't you think that the way the media is going to spin her background as a DA now and top prosecutor is going to be an attempt to kind of like get at that law and order issue, whereas in 2020, there was the whole George Floyd thing and defund the police was really in vogue and all that kind of stuff. I mean, are you concerned that the media is going to try to paint Kamala as this big like crime fighter now?
She's not. She's just like any career politician. She doesn't really believe in anything other than what's fashionable in the moment, what will enhance her power and status in the moment. There's no core conviction, right? She's blowing in the wind. So, there's ample stuff, where she went overboard on certain things and under prosecuted on others. There's some MS-13 guy who slaughtered a family and she lobbied to make sure he didn't get the death penalty, stuff like that really bothers me. Oh, and don't forget, the only reason why we have Vice President Harris is because of a guy named Willie Brown. Willie Brown is a very important guy in California to this day. He was Speaker of the California Assembly. He was mayor of San Francisco, and he's a major power broker in California for about 50 years. And guess what? He had an extramarital affair with Kamala Harris. Kamala was single. He was married. It's not for me to, but here's the thing. It was out in the public, right? They didn't even have the discretion to sneak around. And he hooked her up with all kinds of crazy jobs in government, right? So she was double dipping all over the place. She was an assistant prosecutor, but she's on this board and that board, and they paid big money. Politicians benefiting from politics. I just hate the whole damned industry. And I heard the other day that David Plouffe, I don't know if anybody knows who David Plouffe is, but he managed Obama's campaign in 2008 and I believe in 2012. He might get paid $10 million. $10 million for how many work? 3.5 months worth of work to manage her campaign. David Plouffe, just some guy who ran campaigns, hits it big, $10 million when he's not working for, I think he works for Uber or Airbnb, one of those big tech giants where they just throw around money like crazy. Meanwhile, the drivers get screwed. And just, it's an oligarchy. It's an oligarchy, just like they have in Russia, in the Soviet Union. That's what we've got on our hands here. Do we want to hear from Vance? I like his wife, too. Very attractive and very nice, very accomplished, very smart. Right?
Yeah. I mean, both Yale Law School graduates.
Did you go to a Brewers game in Milwaukee?
Unfortunately, they were out of town because it was the All-Star break. I drove by the stadium every day. But
you didn't go to a game?
They weren't playing. All baseball's All-Star game was on.
Kevin went.
They were there earlier because they drove out with all the equipment. So they went on like Saturday it was Saturday. They were there when the president got shot.
You missed out.
I did.
And then you were up there with all the so Milwaukee kind of stinks, right?
Yeah,
other than the excitement. I mean, there's nothing really going on there.
They have that kind of nice river walk there, which is kind of like a JV Chicago river walk, if you will. You know what I mean? It's kind of nice. But yeah.
And where the hell is Milwaukee in relation to Green Bay? What is Green Bay?
Green Bay, I think, is like about an hour and a half drive north.
But why is it Green Bay? It's on Lake Michigan, right? I never understood that. Green Bay. Nobody knows.
Yeah,
nobody knows.
It's a little bit inland, I guess.
Nobody knows the story. Hey, one other thing. I do think it was a miracle that Donald Trump survived that shot. I think is divine intervention. And Bill Maher is a thoughtful man. Mm-hmm. I will say this, is a thoughtful man, but he doesn't think it's divine intervention. I just want to hear this. Cut 9, please. Cut 9.
People see signs because they want to see them. It's why stalkers think Taylor Swift is blinking "Marry Me" to them in Morse code. But it gets dangerous when the signs make someone think God is on their side. Republican Congressman Mike Collins said after the shooting, "God spared Ronald Reagan for a reason. God spared Donald Trump for a reason. God doesn't miss." Really? Tell that to John Lennon, rotten hell. But thinking that God protects your heroes, but not mine, that isn't cool either.
So, look, he's an atheist. And I said he's thoughtful, and he is, but I totally disagree with him. God works in mysterious ways. He does. And we can never know, really, while we're here, what's totally going on. But it's funny. I actually got a sign from a Bill Maher movie. That man made a movie making fun of religion. It was called Religulous, as a play on ridiculous. And in that movie, he goes to a Christian theme park. And he's making fun of the people there and the people who work there. And one of the guys is like recreating the crucifixion of Jesus. And he's dressed as Jesus, and after the recreation is done, Bill Maher interviews him and starts hassling him and give him a hard time a little bit, tweaking him here and there. And the guy said in frustration, but not really frustration, he just kind of said, look, it's like trying to understand, it's like me trying to explain a color TV to an ant. It's beyond our comprehension. And I was like, that really hit me. Exactly. It was like exactly what I needed to hear at that time. It just stayed with me. And he said some other things too. And it was just like, and it, in a weird way, planted a big, big seed that grew into my faith. Now it's pretty strong and hopefully grow stronger. I mean, in a weird way, I have Bill Maher's movie to thank for that. I needed to hear that at that point. It's like, that makes so much sense what that man said under duress, being made fun of. He does work in mysterious ways. And I've thought about that. Kennedy, Kennedy was killed, right? God lets things happen, but we don't know. We have free will, but we're still... Kennedy had done a lot in his life, if you know what I mean, right? Maybe he didn't want... maybe America wasn't ready for the story of, White House interns having orgies in the pool with the President of the United States. We weren't ready for that then. I don't think America was. And if we did have those stories, it could have really undermined our power, our standing in the world, made us vulnerable to who the hell knows what. And we kind of were ready for it by 1998 when it rolled around, but that was still crummy. So,
and just to pick up on that, Greg, I would just say, like, I agree with you. You know, my ways are not your ways, right? As God teaches. But at the same time, a lot of what happened with the JFK assassination and kind of the things surrounding it, all the questions that emerged, kind of put people on the path of questioning the deep state a little bit, right?
Yeah, listen, Kennedy wanted out of Vietnam. He wasn't committed to Vietnam. And we believe that the deep state really wanted that war. All right. That's one of the things that he had going against him. Just like Nixon wanted to make peace with Russia and peace with China. They really didn't want that. Anyway, it's totally fascinating. More on everything. Thank you, James Flipppin. Be right back.
Greg Kelly. This is the Greg Kelly Show.
Director Cheadle, as you know, the shooter began shooting at 6:11 p.m. Eastern on July 13th. NBC reported that at 5:51 p.m., 20 minutes before the shooting began, the state police informed the Secret Service of their concern. Now, the rally was not paused at that point, correct?
No.
And according to NBC, just 2 minutes later, at 5:53 p.m., the Secret Service notified its snipers about the gunman. The rally wasn't paused at that point either, correct?
No.
Let me show you some video footage by rally goers. If you could play the video on the screen up here. This was taken 2 minutes before the shooting started. If you could turn up the volume.
We've seen this, right? Yep.
Criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here.
Right on the roof.
It's much tougher than it happens.
You went right on the roof with that.
Up here.
Ma'am, that doesn't look like suspicious behavior. That looks like threatening behavior to me. And the rally wasn't paused at that point either, correct?
I can tell you, as I stated earlier, sir, that the moment that the shift surrounding the president were aware of an actual threat.
That's a threat right there. The guy's on the roof and everybody's yelling at him.
Yes.
And directing the officer's attention to him. The rally was not paused at that point, correct?
We are currently still combing through communications and when communications were passed.
Well, I can point you to this communication. It's 2 minutes before the shots started ringing out. Director Cheadle, yes or no? Was there ever a moment where the Secret Service actually considered pausing the rally?
The Secret Service would have paused the rally.
More gobbledygook. More gobbledygook. She is...
You're listening to the Greg Kelly Show.
Hey, all right, we are... You hear me? Check, check, check. Good to go? Good to go. Marjorie Taylor Greene is slapping around the director of the Secret Service, and she deserves it, this Kimberly Cheadle. Listen to this. Listen to this. If you don't mind.
Drone over the area, period. Any part of the area.
Again, I would have to go back and check the timeline of when that took place and when the event...
Why didn't you bring the timeline with you today to answer our questions?
I don't have all of the answers on the timelines based on the criminal investigation.
Were you not prepared today to answer our questions?
I am prepared to answer the questions based on the information and wanted to be able to provide.
Do you have a timeline that do you have it all from any of the day?
I have a timeline that does not have specifics.
That's shocking. That is absolutely unacceptable. Failure at your job.
I totally agree, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. I wonder what our next guest would say about all this. Ray Kelly, longest-serving police commissioner in New York City history, and in the 1990s, guess what? He had supervisory authority over the Secret Service. The Secret Service director actually reported to him or was subordinate to him as an agency. Ray Kelly was the Undersecretary of Treasury, and ATF, Customs, and the Secret Service were part of his portfolio. They all reported to him. Ray Kelly, my dad, by the way, as you probably all know. How you doing? Have you been watching this lady?
I've been watching a lot of it. I haven't watched the whole thing, but I would say this, just as an administrative note, to the best of my knowledge, there hasn't been a break for this witness, and she's been here for 4 hours. I mean, just basic civility would require some sort of break for the witness.
Well, wait a second. I mean, look, she could ask for a break. You know what I mean? Or counsel could ask for a break. I mean,
no, there isn't any counsel. She doesn't have a counsel. And
wait. All right. I don't want to. Gee, I can't believe I'm arguing with my dad, Ray Kelly, but she went in there with 55 guys. All right. One of them is a lawyer. Somebody could stand up, give a signal. She's allowed to do that. 4 hours. You know what? I mean, okay, that's half a workday. Forget that. I mean, for a moment, how do you think what do you think of her answers? I mean, what do you think of what she's saying there? She looks like she went in prepared to say absolutely nothing.
Well, it's clear that after 9 days, she should have a lot more information, and that's not forthcoming. Now, you have to assume that she's privy to that information. The FBI is doing the investigation. They don't always have the best relationship between the two agencies, but I would think that everything that they're finding, they're making available to her. So the answers are, yes, lacking. And Congress has a right to be disturbed by the fact that almost 2 weeks have passed and there's no information. And they keep using the term overwatch. I don't know what that means. I know what it means in the military, but I don't know what it means. And she's using it as a substitute for aviation. It's saying, well, there's no aviation, no, but there's overwatch. Well, from where, of what, who, what does that mean? Who is responsible for the overwatch? So there's just an awful lot of things that are not answered. The questions of what do they do with suspicious people? Shouldn't they be confronting them? Shouldn't there be resources there at an event to be able to be mobile and to move and to confront suspicious people? Apparently not. And then what is the line between suspicious people and a threat? That hasn't been sufficiently explained. Of course, this individual was observed with a rifle. Obviously, that's a threat, but it looks like it was obviously too late.
Some of her answers seem very, very bureaucratic, designed to confuse.
Yeah.
She's hiding behind bureaucraties, if that's the word. And that is an important question. Okay, and she's really drilling down on it, but nobody else is. You have suspicion, and then you have threat. And there's like a formal designation. And what I'm wondering is, how do you go from suspicious to threat? I mean, do you have to ask your supervisor? It sounds like some stupid requirement that the government actually might just make mandatory. That's astounding to me because all this stuff gets crammed in books, and you can be overwhelmed with rules and regulations, and then you have an excuse almost for anything that goes wrong. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And also, there's some real world issues that have to be examined. Why wouldn't they have somebody on that roof? It just defies logic. So I wonder if somebody was giving somebody or a group a break because of the weather. Was it very hot? I think it was close to 90 degrees that day. Why would you be inside, not on top of the building? That makes no sense. Logically, that's where they should be. But to have him inside, I don't know. Were they trying to give him a break, or we'll probably find this out. But it looks like it's going to be like pulling teeth.
And what does it say to you that this person has not been fired or suspended or put on leave, or she could remain employed by the federal government, but she doesn't have to be the Secret Service director? I mean, when you're a captain of a ship and the ship hits a rock, you get relieved. You don't actually get fired from the Navy, but you get relieved of your command. That seems like it should be an order, but I mean, the federal government is I mean, like, why isn't that happening, or should it happen? And is there any reason for it to not happen?
Well, there are rules and regulations about terminating somebody. You just can't do it. There is a sort of a due process system in the federal government. But as you say, I mean, she could be reassigned or relieved or, taken out of this function. But the reality is that she probably knows more about the agency than anybody else around. So she's going to hopefully be some help in the investigation. Now, it doesn't look like it's forthcoming right away here, but, you just don't fire somebody because you feel like it. There is a process.
I mean, wait a second, though. She's a political appointee, right? To get that top job, aren't you a political appointee?
You are confirmed by the Senate, yes. So, it's in that category. Yeah, you're right.
Well, I mean, it's just a bad example. I mean, and well, look, I'm going to bring you into this. It's my theory, but the way the government has been talking about Donald Trump for the past 9 years, especially over the past 2 years, he is a clear and present danger to American democracy. I mean, there have been judges, there have been vice presidents, presidents who have been saying the most awful things. These aren't kooks, on crazy blogs on the dark web. These are people in authority saying that Donald Trump is a threat to the republic. And my fear, and I've stated it publicly, is that this is a signal to the deep state, to the permanent government. If you live up to your oath, if you take your oath seriously, you're to defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. You all take an oath for that. That he is to be removed. I just can't get that out of my head. And I think it should be looked at, investigated. And I think, quite frankly, the Cheneys need to be brought in for questioning. Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney have said the most vile things about him, and they've been repeated by the media. And when you say someone's a clear and present danger, you took an oath to defend the Constitution, I mean, the consequence of that is logical. I'll shut up now. What do you think?
Yeah, in my lifetime, I've never seen anybody vilified, attacked, demonized to the extent anywhere close to Donald Trump. And whether you like him, don't like him, it is really, it is outrageous that he's subjected to this type of talk without anybody pushing back, other you and yourself and some other commentators. But it is incredible. Here's a man that's been, he's been impeached twice. He's been indicted 4 times. He's been arrested. He's been now shot. I think they tried to bankrupt it. I mean, it is absolutely incredible. And you're right. The level of hate speech against him has just reached incredible levels. The vituperation is just unmatched anywhere else in history. I don't know. I wasn't around for Hitler, but maybe you was directed at him. But
they've compared him to Hitler. It's fascinating what's happening here, and you mention all that, and it's very, very logical. I do want to get your opinion on this. What do you think of Biden just kind of is emailing a letter to the world, giving up the nomination? He's still in hiding. I mean, that is very strange as well. All right, I get it. You stunk. I predicted 2 years ago that you'd be getting out of the race, and here you are. But we should see the guy. I mean, I can't believe they do this without, putting the guy out there in public. It's very strange.
I agree. And it is the right thing to do. I mean, you're leaving the most powerful job in the world, in the most powerful country in the world. You have to make it has to be a public face. You've got to make a public statement. An email on X is not sufficient. And I guess they're hiding behind the fact that he has COVID. But we haven't seen anything. It's quite unusual in historical terms to have that happen.
I remember when Donald Trump had COVID and they put him in Bethesda Naval Hospital, And what did he do? He was making Truth Social videos, Twitter videos every step of the way. He was getting in a car and going around the block and saying hi to people. You know, you got to do that. You got to do that. You got to lead. And that's one of the many things he just could not do. Lead. Well, Ray Kelly, you are one hell of a leader. Everybody wants you back. Everybody, brings it up all the time. We wish you had him back. We wish he was back. Will he run for mayor? So, you are beloved in many ways.
Thank you.
It's
Greg.
true.
Thank you
It's
so
true.
much.
All right, Ray, Dad, I just called my father by his first name. That's because my daughter calls you by the first name, which I find, I don't know. I find it cute somehow. We got to go, Dad. Say hi to Mom. All the best. Your calls when we come back. 800-842-9222, right? Is that the right number? 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222.
Greg Kelly. This is the Greg Kelly Show.
Hey, not for nothing, but is Kamala Harris black or what's her ethnicity? Some question mark about that. It doesn't really matter, but, well, it matters to the left. They're always talking about it, and they, apparently I have no home in the Democrat Party. They have no interest in a white, straight male. Biden will be the last one. It's come up a few times. I don't know. I don't really care, but they care, don't they? Kathy in New Jersey, hello.
Hi, Greg. How are you?
Good.
Love your show.
Thanks.
I just wanted to tell you that my sister and I went to a rally in Wildwood in May, and we were out on the beach in the open, and it was a very safe and secure. It felt very safe and secure. We had drones coming down, helicopters flying over, and I have video and pictures because my sister's former sergeant in local law enforcement, and I have pictures of snipers to the left over storefronts and hotel, and then right behind the stage, hours before the president came out, was a sniper climbing up the Ferris wheel, this big white Ferris wheel, on a very narrow area with a backpack on his back with the rifle. And I'm going, oh my God, I hope he doesn't fall. But he was perched way up high, and then to the right by the log flume, there were two snipers there. So honestly, I'm listening to all the hearings and everything. I have no idea how this could have happened.
Yeah, I know. It's so crazy. So crazy. Unbelievable. Sniper on the Ferris wheel. I know how you'd get to the top of the Ferris wheel. Just get the Ferris wheel going. Start it up. Why climb when you can just ride it? Right?
No. They had the seats removed, I guess, for the rally. So it was
you stay in one of those seats. Hey, you know what? Not to brag, but I'm pretty good with a rifle. I'm actually an expert. I'm an expert marksman, and I know how to shoot. I learned first from my dad and was reinforced by the Marine Corps. Thank you, Kathy. Jacqueline, hi.
Hi, Greg. I first have a question for you, and then I want to just say something about the Secret Service failures. I had heard, I think it was over the weekend, that the Secret Service had engaged the shooter up to 3 hours before the rally even began. And I'm wondering if you know anything about that. If not, if you could look into that.
No, I heard that as well, that he was roaming around. They noticed him quite a considerable time prior, and he was actually in the immediate area. He wasn't outside the perimeter. He was inside, and he even brought a rangefinder in with him. A rangefinder. It's like this thing that you point, and you can figure out how far their target is, and I guess they're big with hunters, and it's not a banned item, which seems really strange. Jacqueline, thank you. Let's continue with Steve. Steve.
Yeah, how you doing, Greg? I just want to know why nobody just poses the question, why do we all have the information that they're claiming not to have?
No, that's kind of the undercurrent today. I mean, they're complaining that you have given more information to ABC and CNN than you're giving to us. Hey, remember, she's not the only one involved in all of this. There's state and local law enforcement. There are people who work at the Secret Service that are blabbing a little bit, right? I mean, there are all kinds of ways to get information. And you obviously don't get it from the top anymore. Not everybody's a Ray Kelly, who was very honest and open and direct with the public. Thank you. Nate, very quickly. You there? Too slow. You're gone. Sandra, hello.
Oh, hello, Greg. I wanted to say two things.
No, one. I don't like everybody telling me they got two things to say. Just say it.
Okay. So first, I know you like Laura Loomer, so I found this and I wanted to read it to you. She says that Joe Biden is now in the terminal stage of his illness. This is what my medical source in D.C. has confirmed to me.
All right. I know. I like Laura Loomer. I do. But I can't. Look, Frank Biden said out loud that the brother is basically got a few months left. Frank Biden, So Laura's interesting, very interesting, and she does some very compelling content, and I think she's brave. Thank you, Sandra. I got to go on to here she is, Barbara, the wise woman of Long Island. Hello, Barbara. What do you have for us?
Hi, Greg. Well, when your father came on, he exemplified exactly what I want to say to you. Your father's first concern was a very kind, compassionate, empathetic concern for the comfort of these people, especially this woman who's been interviewed for 4 hours without a break. Now, that speaks volumes about your dad, about his morals, about his principles, about his caring. Now, by comparison, what I've been noticing is that this Secret Service director is typical of the people who have been in front of Congress from this administration. The woman has no morals. She has no honesty in her. She came in there with a total lack of professionalism, with a total lack of respect for the American people, for Donald Trump, and for the Congress. That's why our founders were so concerned and determined that we should maintain morality and religion in our country, because we have such extensive personal liberties and we have a system of government that doesn't have 10,000 rules. It has a few rules in the beginning, but you needed moral people to stick to those rules, and there is no morality. So whether you look at Kimberly Cheadle or you look at someone like Mayorkas, or I remember Strzok when he was testifying, they have such disdain for the process. How dare they be called up there and questioned? They hide behind the statement, I take full responsibility, because they take no responsibility at all. It is the height of arrogance and conceit, and it does tremendous damage to our country.
Right. Well, when Trump gets in there, I think he's going to blow up, in a metaphorically speaking, the federal government. And that's okay, because they don't seem to understand that they work for us. It's not the other way around. And to see this lady go in there with like 17 guys, lawyers, armed guards, staffers, PR people. I mean, who the hell is she? Right? You don't need that many people, but they have all this stuff, and they're all about agency preservation. And I think they got her to, say nothing. Hey, thank you very much, Barbara. Okay, we love you. I think she loves us back. I hope so. I know she does. All right. Well, there's the music. We're going to know potentially. Well, we're finding out things every moment of every day. So tomorrow's going to be entirely different. I look forward.